Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Gentle Mastery Podcast. I'm Dave Hime, and I'm your host, the creator of the Gentle Mastery Method, the Consciousness Signature, and Legacy Activation Coaching. And today we are on stage 6 of the Legacy Activation process. So for anybody who does not have it yet, please take a look at the show description and click the quick download link to get your own free PDF of the Legacy Activation Resource Guide and the 7 stages of Legacy Activation. This is what we've been going through for the last few weeks. This is week number 6, and this week is if you're rethinking wealth, power, and purpose. So this is a very special week because I'm going to get to sort of lay my truth bare amongst all of you and be as vulnerable as I've ever been on this podcast, because I'll be talking about my own financial struggles and how they led me through this stage and how they taught me how to think anew about money, about wealth, and about power, and about purpose, which is what this week is all about. So as usual, what I'll be doing is actually reading directly from the guide, but then also adding in a lot of my own stories here. This week is for you if you're someone who has had or continues to have financial struggles. It's also for those of you who have made a comfortable financial life for yourself and are ready to move to whatever the next chapter is for yourself. Those of you who have perhaps played around a little bit with human design or some other transformational technologies and recognize that there's something more to why you're here than simply achieving what you've achieved in the 3D world, which 3D world achievement shows up as money in the bank account, and you're ready to move into something that is more connected with yourself, that allows yourself to be a more self-actualized version and higher potential version of yourself, and to bring something really, really good to the world. So there's something that's going to be here for everyone, and I really love being able to do that because my work, I want it to be accessible to everyone, and I also want to speak directly to those people who are looking for a trusted resource who they can make an investment in for themselves to move into their next best chapter of life. So with that said, here is how this section of the Legacy Activation Resource Guide kicks off. You've built financial success, maybe even more than you once imagined. The systems you followed worked. And let me just, a little bit of a side here, the systems you followed worked for you. I want to always include all of us, including myself, for whom the same systems when we attempted to follow them did not work for us. This is where the real impact of human design can come into your life if you haven't already explored it. This is where you can find out why all of those things that you believed would get you where you wanted to go didn't work for you, and what will work instead. But for many of the people who are looking at this legacy activation work and who are wanting to leave more than a financial legacy, they followed the systems and those systems worked for them. So that 3D manifestation of success, which is money in the bank account, you've had that. the wealth accumulated, but lately the same strategies that once energized you now feel flat or even hollow. So you know who I'm speaking to. You know if you are one of those people and that you've been led here in order to unlock these things and in order to get to know me a little bit so that you will take a look at the website at gentlemasterymethod.com and click the link there and fill out the form and get on a 1-hour call with me to see if this is the time that you're going to take that next step and open the next chapter. You're sensing that accumulation alone isn't enough anymore. You want your relationship with money to mean something deeper, something aligned with who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Now, for those of us who struggle with money, and I'm still putting myself in that same camp, I'll talk more about that throughout this podcast. Don't switch the dial, to use an old phrase. There is great information here for you. You have access to manifesting whatever it is you would choose to manifest in your life. I went from somebody who was constantly financially struggling to someone who is able to make a decision, take an action, and get what I want in my life. And I'm going to talk in depth about that in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do a podcast specifically on the specifics of what it takes to manifest and how to do that, how to access the 5D version of yourself that's ready to manifest. Today I'll give you a little bit of a preview of it as we go through. So don't leave if what you're hearing currently from the Legacy Activation Resource Guide isn't where you are yet. We'll get you there. Back to what the guide says. This shift isn't personal. As you awaken, you're starting to see the bigger picture, that the very systems that rewarded your drive and discipline may be the same ones that create inequality, disconnection, and scarcity for others. So here we go again. You are recognizing yourself in what it is I'm saying. Those of you who are meant to be here because you're ready to, like I say, move on to that next chapter, cross that bridge from 3D success to something greater. You can no longer ignore that your financial journey is unfolding inside a larger context, a global one shaped by capitalism, patriarchy, and generational injustice. So this was the learning I went on. This is stage 6 of me activating my own legacy, which I'm living out now. And part of that was me coming face to face with my own financial struggles and me coming face to face with the question of if I was doing exactly the same things that my siblings were taught to do, and they were financially successful, but I was struggling, there must be something more going on than it being a simple formula. That simple formula doesn't work for everyone. This is what human design taught me. But I didn't get to that until I started to explore maybe there's more to this money game than I was ever taught. And that's what this section of the Legacy Activation Resource Guide addresses. My journey in learning what is behind what I had been taught about finance, money, and success. And a lot of what's behind that is systemic oppression. especially for those of us who are not cishet white men, those of us in the LGBTQIA2S plus community, those of us in the POC community. We have different standards applied to us. We are taught in a different way. And I know that might sound a little out there, but bear with me because it holds up. And my evidence is here in the guide. So for those of you who are here, you might be saying things like, I've won the game, but I'm starting to question the rules. I don't want to keep growing my wealth without a reason that feels rooted in soul and service. The money's still coming in, but I don't feel good about how I'm relating to it. Or I'm becoming more aware of privilege, power, and responsibility, and I want to do better with all three. You may also be noticing traditional financial goals: retire early, build passive income, grow your portfolio, don't inspire you like they used to. So this is one of the ways that you know that you are in the right place. When you are no longer as inspired as you used to be by those traditional financial goals, and you are looking to widen the net of your reality regarding what you can achieve with the money that you've accumulated. You may be noticing conversations about money that once excited you now feel disconnected from your values. A pull toward redistributing wealth, supporting equality, and understanding financial systems at a deeper level. Or a desire to unlearn the scarcity mindset that underpinned even your most abundant seasons. This is so key. How many of you have been running with a low-level fear, a low-level scarcity mindset that has driven you to accumulate, that has driven you to swallow things that you would never have stood for if you were standing in your values in order to make a buck? And look, no intended blame here, no intended shame here. Everybody does what they have to do. We have families to support. We have roofs to keep over our head. But if you are understanding that what got you here financially is not going to get you where it is you want to go consciously, with your conscious self, with that part of you that plays above the line in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've got survival handled and you are now living your life to be the highest potential, to be that self-actualized self. You know that there are some things in the past that might still feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. We can look at those. We can find out where they came from. We can let those things go. You are not defined by that. Just like those of you who still struggle financially are not defined by your financial struggle. We're going to get you out of that financial struggle. You know how. You have what it takes to make it happen. We all have access to these same strengths, these same, what I call managing the invisible, these powers, this 5D part of life that is happening at the same time. Teach us about the 3D. We can just live in both at the same time. That's what legacy activation is all about. That's what these 7 steps of legacy activation. We're on stage 6, which is why I said 6, but These 7 stages of legacy activation are all about recognizing there's this 5D experience that we're all having while we also live in the day-to-day material, have to keep a roof over our head, have to get food in our mouths. Many of us still have to work that 9-to-5 job, right? So I'm speaking to everyone. But these are the things that I specifically had to navigate for myself as I transitioned from the person in financial struggle to the person who had everything that I desired and living my legacy actively. Back to the guide. Beliefs you may be releasing include: more is always better. I have to earn my security through constant performance. My worth is equal to my productivity or bank account. That is a huge one. It was a huge one for me to unlearn. And listen to me if you are in financial struggle right now. These are key beliefs I had to unlearn in order to get out of financial struggle. They're also key beliefs to unlearn if you want to move into the higher version of yourself. If you're financially stable and you want to move into the higher version of yourself. If you're not yet financially stable, this belief around your worth being tied to your productivity or your bank account, it is killing you, and it needs to go away. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I am going to say it's possible. I did it. You can do it. Back to the guide. Beliefs you're stepping into. Wealth is energy, and I get to be in the right relationship with it. This is huge. Currency, money is currency. Currency is energy. Everything is energy. This is the purpose of exploring this legacy activation process. It is to get us connected with these energies so that we can utilize them in our lives to have what it is we're designed to have, so that we can do what it is we're here to do to help humanity. Another belief you might be stepping into is generosity isn't a side effect of success, it's the point. So we're all here to help each other. And if you're listening to this, you know that. If you're listening to this, that's why you're here. If you're sitting on a big bank account and you're ready to do the next thing you're here to do, part of it is to tap into the generosity that can help humanity. This is about prosperity for everyone. And the prosperity for everyone, bringing prosperity to you. This is the rising tide lifts all boats theory of energy. And it's true. And it works. You may also be stepping into the belief that financial liberation is personal, but it's also political. So that's what we're about to get into here, because one of the very first things I'm going to talk about is a podcast that really opened my eyes, because I was somebody who, again, was in a moment of crisis, a sustained moment of crisis that had actually been going on for decades, but it had come to a head in my early 60s, and I couldn't bury my head in the sand anymore. And I had to say to myself, if I'm struggling financially, there has to be a way out of this financial struggle. But the first thing I have to do is I have to teach myself about the realities of finance. I can't just believe what I was taught as a kid, because it's not ever worked for me. Even though I see it working beautifully for everybody around me, or a lot of people around me. So I started over. This stage isn't about shame or guilt. So again, I want to say that. It's about clarity. You want to stay resourced, but with integrity. And for those of you who are not yet resourced, you want to get resourced and with integrity. You want to give, receive, and circulate wealth in a way that heals, not harms. This is good for everybody because this wealth energy, this money energy, is an energy. It doesn't want to stop when it gets to you. So you may be thinking, I just need to get the money to pay the thing. And yeah, you do need to get the money to pay the thing. We live in a material world. We all need to get the money to pay the thing. But that's not where it ends. The paying the thing is the process of that energy and that currency continuing. And so this is a flow. Financial abundance is a flow. Prosperity for all of us is a flow, right? You're no longer interested in playing a game that only serves the few. You're ready to write new rules, ones that align prosperity with purpose, soul, and collective care. This is what I'm saying. Prosperity for all means abundance for each of us. There is no lack of money. This is not a zero-sum game. You having more doesn't mean somebody else has to have less. You having less doesn't mean that you have to hate somebody who has more. It's all a flow. So here's my pathway through this stage. It started with the Financial Feminist podcast. So the Financial Feminist podcast, it's all of these resources are linked here in the guide for each of the 7 stages. And here we are in stage 6, which is why I keep saying that. Here's what I wrote about the Financial Feminist podcast. I discovered this podcast at a time when I was starting over and finding my authentic thoughts and beliefs about me. Tori Dunlop, she's the Financial Feminist. Tori Dunlop's work opened my eyes to the structures behind personal finance, how patriarchy, capitalism, and cultural narratives shape our relationship with money. It challenged me to unlearn the shame and scarcity I had unconsciously carried and gave me language to explore both personal responsibility and collective awareness. So I found this podcast in early 2020 when I was just starting on this journey, this financial unlearning and relearning journey for myself. I started out with the NerdWallet Smart Money podcast because I wanted to start out very low confront is what I call that. So like I was a little bit scared to learn about money, so I wanted to go someplace that felt comfortable to me, that felt warm and fuzzy to me, and NerdWallet was always someplace that felt accessible. And I started with their podcast, and within the first, couple of months, they had Tori Dunlop on as a guest, and I listened to her story, and I was hooked. And so I started listening to her podcast, and it changed everything about how I saw my own financial failings and my own financial successes. It gave me permission to let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, let go of the regret over past financial mistakes I'd made. And it allowed me to really forgive myself, to really start to forgive myself and start to reparent myself around money. And that's key for any of us, all of us, who have a financial struggle. I also believe that it is key for those of you who are financially able and are looking for the next chapter in your lives. There are going to be deeply ingrained beliefs that you have that you will need to challenge if you're going to make a difference in this world. And this is the work that we can do together. So that's where I began. Another thing that I did at the same time as I was questioning wealth and power, those of you who've been following me for a while will know all about this. I listened to Jen Sincero's book, You Are a Badass at Making Money, and I listened to it over and over and over and over and over again. And I understood it. It made sense to me in my brain. It just made perfect sense. But I didn't know how to take action on it. I didn't know how to make a difference in my life because I wouldn't let Jen's true message in. And Jen uses this thing that I call a Trojan horse. I use the term Trojan horse a lot. But with Jen, her Trojan horse is the phrase, you are a badass, and the term badass. And what Jen means when she says that is, you are a divine being. That's what she's saying. You are a divine being and you can make money. And I learned a lot listening to this book, but it wasn't until I actually worked with Jen. I was lucky enough to work with Jen in a group setting in the fall of 2023 that the teachings from this book really came home to roost for me. So here's what I wrote about it. This book met me right as I was confronting long-held money beliefs rooted in lack and judgment. So there's a theme here, lack and judgment. Those of you who are struggling, you're probably feeling lack and you're probably judging yourself about it, and you're definitely judging others if you're like me, right? You're seeing anybody who has it made and wondering why they've got what you don't have and wondering what's wrong with you, and nothing's wrong with you. Back to the guide. Jen's voice is irreverent and empowering, and reading it felt like a full permission slip, pull over again. Back to the guide. Jen's voice is irreverent and empowering, and reading it felt like a full permission slip to shift my energy around wealth. It helped me begin to explore abundance, not just as a mindset, but as a spiritual practice. And this is, again, part of what Jen Sincero's genius is. There is a spiritual underpinning to everything that she's teaching. And that spiritual underpinning is you have the ability, the power, the divine right to have the life that you desire. You would not have the desires you have without also having the ability to make those desires a reality. And she taught me that. And it was through working with her, through studying her work, studying this book, doing the things that the book says to do. It just took me being in a group setting with her in order to actually take it seriously and do the work. That wound up with my $333,333.33 manifestation in a 3-month period. And this is possible for everyone. No matter what it is. Let's say you're somebody who doesn't want to manifest money because you've already managed all of that, but you're ready to manifest a better, different, more highly aligned, more impactful, helpful to humanity life, and you don't know how. These are the tools that I use. The tools that I use with all of my clients are the same ones. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of those next week, because stage 7 next week is about your consciousness signature, which is my signature tool that I have combined a lot of other things for. But back to You Are a Badass at Making Money. So there's another Gentle Mastery video on my YouTube channel where I talk in depth about this book and what a change. And that video, that Gentle Mastery video, is linked here. It's called This Book Didn't Work Until I Heard These 8 Words. And so I really recommend that you watch that. Download the free Gentle Mastery Legacy Activation resource guide. The link is in the show description. For those of you who are ready to move into your next chapter and do something important with the money you've accumulated, go to gentlemasterymethod.com, click on the link, fill out the form. Let's get together. We'll have an hour of conversation, and you'll know whether or not our working together will get you where it is you want to go. You'll definitely know a lot more about what that is that you're here to do. Now, for those of you who are in the struggle, like I said, a couple of weeks from now, I'll be doing a full podcast on manifestation. But here's what you need to know. Here's the short version of this. You have the desires you have for a reason. Get very, very, very clear on what those reasons are, or what that reason is for what it is you want. Picture it in your mind. Feel it in your body. Feel it in your emotions. Know that this new reality that you want for yourself, this new identity that you would be stepping into when you have this new reality, can be yours, is ready for you, is waiting for you. Then this might be the hardest part of all, but it is the most important part of all. Fall deeply in love with the life that you have right now. The more you resist, the more you complain, the more you talk bad about your own life, the more you fight the life you have now. Listen, when I was in the midst of this transition for myself, literally the ceiling in my bedroom had fallen in because I had a leaky roof that I couldn't afford to fix. It had leaked all over the sheetrock, the drywall of the ceiling of my bedroom, and one day that stuff just fell. The ceiling fell. And I couldn't hate that room more than I did at that moment. I couldn't hate the roof more. I couldn't hate the house more. I couldn't hate my life more. I couldn't hate the decisions that I had made that caused the roof to fall in. Because it was all me. It was all me fighting against who I really am. And I had to make my peace with that. It was one aspect of things that I had to make my peace with. I had to make my peace with that, and I had to say, even with the roof falling in, the ceiling falling in, the roof was still there, it was leaking, but the ceiling falling in, I can forgive myself. I can have compassion for myself. I can accept myself. I can love myself. I can love this life. I can love this house that has taken very good care of me for 20 years. I can find the things about my life that work, and I can focus on those things. Not like a Pollyanna, not to the exclusion of reality. I wasn't living in some kind of, sense of I wasn't deluding myself. I was taking a good hard look at what worked and what didn't work. And I was taking a good hard look at, how am I responsible for this ceiling caving in? What do I need in my life in order to fix this? And I got really specific. I got really, really, really specific. This is what Jen taught me. This is what she teaches in You Are a Badass at Making Money. Get really, really specific about what that expense is, what your life's expense is for you to have the life that you desire. Don't cut any corners. Be very clear. And then allow yourself the experience of feeling that you deserve that. And having everywhere you look support that feeling. That when you look at the bedroom ceiling that's caved in, that it's not a feeling of, I'm just screwed. I'm just never going to have it. My life is literally falling apart. My house is falling down around me. Choose a way of looking at that says, I deserve better. I deserve to have a house that's whole, a roof that doesn't leak, a home that I feel safe in. Now, how am I going to make that happen? What is the financial goal that I am going to put in front of me that will get me where it is I want to go? And once you have that understanding, once you have the clarity, once you have that self-acceptance, once you have that love, then you can let go of how it's going to happen. And miracles will begin to occur. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and say it's an overnight process. I mean, it took me cumulatively many years of working on myself to get to the place where I gave myself the opportunity to spend 3 months doing nothing but living in this new reality for myself, of finding a way to forgive myself every day, to love myself every day, no matter what my situation was. And that's when everything changed. Well, I love it that you have come back, or that you've joined me for the first time on this podcast. Until next week, peace.